Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. A bomb blast outside Pakistan court kills 8. Human rights defenders petition public prosecutor for justice. Catholics rally against extrajudicial killings in the Philippines. Police sentenced to 2 years imprisonment for assaulting activist. NGOs write joint letter to UN chief regarding Rohingya. Jakarta elections reveal religious tensions. Urgent appeals from Indonesia and Nepal. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Jessica Fernando. This week, Just Asia begins with Pakistan, where 2 blasts occurred outside a court in Charsadda in Khyber-Pakhtunkhwa province on Monday. At least 8 people were killed and 20 were injured in the attack. After blowing up their explosives, the militants started firing and tried to enter the Sessions Court. Since the beginning of 2017, Pakistan has witnessed a spike in violence, with 20 terrorist attacks claiming the lives of more than 280 civilians and 32 security officials. Jamaat-ul-Ahrar, a group affiliated with Islamic State, has claimed responsibility for most attacks and has vowed to target security forces throughout the country. The deadliest attack occurred at the shrine of Shahbaz Qalandar in Sindh province on February 16th, where some 90 persons were killed and 343 were injured. A few days prior to the shrine bombing, a powerful blast ripped through a protest in Lahore, killing at least 20 and injuring more than 100 people. The explosion went off at busy Mall Road during a rally attended by hundreds of pharmacists, protesting changes to a drug sale law outside the Provincial Assembly building on February 13th. On February 15th, 1 judicial officer was killed and 4 judicial officers were among the 15 persons who sustained injuries as a bomb exploded near a judicial officer's vehicle in Hyderabad Phase 5. The driver was also killed. Despite Pakistan's heavy contingents of military, paramilitary forces, and police, terrorist attacks are rising without any effective action being taken by the government. There is panic in the country as authorities are discouraging people from visiting public places due to fears of violence. The government's counterterrorism strategy has been inept, allowing banned groups to emerge and individuals on international terror lists to operate freely. They have also ignored the funding of these groups arriving from various radical charities. The government has downplayed the IS affiliation, insisting that only a small number of militants have pledged allegiance to the group. In Thailand, 3 human rights defenders petitioned the Pattani Public Prosecutor for justice on Tuesday. Mr.Somchai Homla-or, Ms.Pornpen Khongkachonkiet, and Ms.Anchana Heemmina demanded the public prosecutor to uphold human rights and to make decisions regarding prosecutions based on case merits and to examine all evidence and witnesses as proposed by the accused. The petition was in response to a legal action against the 3 defenders for criminal defamation and violations of the Computer Crimes Act of 2007. The action was brought against them by the Thai military's Internal Securities Operations Command Region 4, ISOC Region 4, after the 3 defenders jointly published a torture report documenting 54 cases of torture committed by military officials in the country's south between 2014 to 2015. In their petition, the 3 human rights defenders also stated that, as a state agency, ISOC's execution of its duties may affect the rights and liberties of people. Therefore, ISOC must be subject to public scrutiny. The prosecutor accepted their petition and informed the 3 that they will discuss the issues with them on the 21st of March 2017. In the Philippines, thousands of Catholics gathered on Saturday, February 18th, for a show of force in the biggest rally yet to stop extrajudicial killings in President Rodrigo Duterte's drug war. Called the Walk for Life, the event gathered 20,000 people according to the organizers, while Manila police estimated the crowd at 10,000. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines had called on the faithful to gather at the Quirino Grandstand, where Duterte held a huge pre-election rally. About 8 in 10 Filipinos are Catholic. The church helped lead the revolution that toppled dictator Ferdinand Marcos in 1986 and a 2001 uprising that ousted then-President Joseph Estrada. Although the church had initially declined to speak against Duterte's drug war, as the death toll of mostly poor people mounted, it began late last year to call for the killings to end. More than 6,000 people have died since Duterte took office 7 months ago. Duterte, meanwhile, has said that the church is full of it, and the most hypocritical institution, for speaking out against a campaign that would save generations of Filipinos from the drug menace. Saturday's rally also opposed Duterte's push to restore the death penalty, one of his top legislative priorities. Senator Leila de Lima, a former human rights commissioner and one of Duterte's most vocal opponents, also attended the rally as a show of solidarity. The government on Friday filed charges against her for allegedly running a drug trafficking ring using criminals in the country's largest prison while she was Justice Secretary in the previous administration. De Lima has repeatedly insisted that the charges against her are trumped up to silence her and intimidate other Duterte critics. Next, in Hong Kong, 7 police officers were sentenced to 2 years imprisonment on Friday, February 17th, for assaulting an unarmed activist during the city's pro-democracy protests in 2014. While Judge David Dufton reduced the sentence by 6 months to take into account the stress police were under during the Occupy movement, as well as their clear records, he said in his sentencing that the case was very serious because the police officers took Kang Jun to the substation to assault him while they were on duty. He said, "I am satisfied a term of imprisonment is appropriate. Jung was defenseless, his hands handcuffed behind his back with plastic ties. The assault was a vicious assault, in particular the first 30 seconds when Jung was dumped on the ground, stabbed, stamped on, and repeatedly kicked." The judge also said that it was most fortunate that Jung did not suffer more serious injuries. Pro-police protesters, angry at what they consider to be harsh sentencing, faced off outside the court against pro-democracy protesters calling for justice. Moving on to Burma, several international NGOs, including Amnesty International and the Burma Task Force, have written a joint letter to the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres regarding the deteriorating situation faced by the country's Rohingya minority. In particular, the letter calls for the UN chief to engage with the Burmese government and military leaders to investigate all the abuses as well as to discuss how to end the institutional discrimination against the Rohingya. Noting the large number of Rohingya refugees throughout the region, as well as their deplorable living conditions, the letter states that the UN must signal the necessity for pluralism and the rule of law. In Indonesia's capital city of Jakarta, the first round of a public election to elect the city's governor and vice governor was held on February 15th. With one of the candidates, Mr. Basuki Purnama, coming from the Christian Chinese minority, the election campaign has seen much racism and hate speech. Another candidate, Mr. Anis, has led the Islamist support who are pushing for Muslims to vote for Muslims. As a result, there is considerable concern regarding secularism in the country. Furthermore, Purnama is also facing a blasphemy trial after delivering a speech criticizing politicians who use religion to gain votes. The Indonesian government also has no clear policy against religious hatred, while conflicts between hardliner groups and minority religions have been a serious issue in the last decade. The government is reluctant to officially invite the UN Special Rapporteur on freedom of religion and belief to visit Indonesia. While there have been many trainings to strengthen the capacity of police officers, the police have been unable to address issues of hate speech and hate crimes against minorities. The second round of elections will take place in April, and it is hoped that rather than religion, the focus will be on the candidates' abilities and their visions for Jakarta. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features 2 cases, one from Indonesia and one from Nepal. In Indonesia, a personal conflict led to Mr. Afriyadi stabbing a police officer, Mr. Azil Tambunan. Meranti police officers then illegally arrested and tortured Mr. Afriyadi, leading to his death. When residents found out of Mr. Afriyadi's death in police custody, they protested outside the police station, leading to one protester being shot and injured. An investigation into the case is ongoing. In Nepal, an elderly couple who have been living in a makeshift house below the Dr. K.I. Singh Bridge of Pokhara Kaski district have been forcefully thrown out by the local area development committee and other groups. The groups have dismantled their house before throwing them out without any government directives. Since then, the old couple have been taking refuge in a neighbor's house. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.